This is rolling. Hi everyone. I'm sorry. I know this is not the video I said I would upload. I said I would upload a wardrobe tour, but there was a teensy bitsy little problem with that. I had a lot of problems with my recent purchases. Very frustrating. One of the coats that I ordered showed up with a matted area on the fur, and a bunch of other problems and mending I had to do. So I've been spending hours trying to fix that. And one of my blouses still hasn't shown up. And there's no tracking! Ah! So I'm kind of just in limbo on those stuff. So I'm really sorry that this is one of the videos that I was supposed to upload. But I figured, well, I have to upload something. I'm losing subscribers. I noticed you two people. You subscribed and you unsubscribed. I noticed that. But totally understandably, because I haven't uploaded very many videos yet. But what I was going to say is, so I decided, why not just do a story time, explaining some things that happened recently. Because, you know, those are interesting, I guess. Oh, also, yes, my outfit today is clearly going for the chocolate theme. And yeah, I'm really proud of this. And this is actually a new wig that I got. Which I guess is a spoiler, but since again, wardrobe tour hasn't happened yet, might as well. Anyways, what else was I gonna say? Okay, so, story time everybody. Walking around as a Lolita. You can get a lot of interesting things happening with this. And I was gonna say, so the first time I ever went out in Lolita, I just decided I'm gonna go shopping because my mom was just peeked in while I was making food, and she's like, "Hey, want to go out to the store?" I'm like, "Shoot, I don't have ingredients." I'm like, "Sure," and then I realized, "Oh shoot, I'm in Lolita." I'm like, I'm not changing, spending half an hour unchanging, and then changing back when I get back. That's just absurd. So I was just like, okay, guess I'm going to the store in Lolita. I'm just going to accept this occurrence. And, you know, I got to the store, just walking around. Mom's like, I'm going over here. I'm like, sure, cool. And I'm just walking. And this wasn't even this kind of outfit. It was casual. No contacts. I used my natural hair. Like, it wasn't super absurd at all. But yet, while I was walking, started noticing some old ladies, gave me kind of glances, a couple people looked at me, and then there was this one old lady that I was just walking past, and there was this jewelry counter, and I see her just tilt her head completely like this, and look at me with this, what the heck is up with this child look? And I just kind of smiled at her, and nodded my head as I walked by. And I was just like, that was interesting. And I just got to the aisle I was going to. I was just looking, sitting, and I was like, oh, I got extra time. I'll go through the sewing aisle, since I do a lot of DIY projects and sewing and things. And I was just going through the aisle, and I see this dude who takes one glance at me, turns back, and just pretends like he didn't see anything. And then I see him, and I hear him as he walks out. He finishes up his thing, walks away, and he's like, what the heck was that? I just hear him whisper that, like, what the heck was that? I'm just like, this is what you call a Lolita, sweetie. And so that was just like my first experience going around Lolita. But it wasn't like something I was embarrassed about, because I kept kind of the mindset of, this is part of being Lolita. And it's funny when this happens. It's kind of what I tried to tell myself. And you know what? It is. Like, seeing these people's strange reaction just to a fashion style which is just cutesy and modest. It's like, how do you have such a strong reaction to this when there's girls going around with hardly anything on at all nowadays, and people just accept that as fact? I always find that to be hilarious. But so I kept a good mindset on it, so I've always just kind of find these weird reactions pretty funny. And, you know, a lot of times I'm just like, the first time I wore Lolita to school, I was just like, okay, there's going to be some people who find it freaky. Some people are going to question it. Some people are going to ask something about it. I got a parrot and I did a whole spiel of coming up with responses to these people, like, in my head. And I got to school and just like, no one's saying anything. And I went to my first class, nothing. Second class, nothing. And like the only time, and I remember remarking to one of the people who I was pretty well acquainted with, I'm like, it's weird, nothing's saying anything about my outfit. And they're just like, oh yeah, it's cute. I'm just like, well, I know, but it's weird. They're just like, oh, it's not that weird. I'm like, lady, I'm the only person in high school who wears a bow. It's like, when have you ever even seen a person with a bow? Let alone the rest of my clothing. And that one was kind of a more casual gothic Lolita style that I was wearing back then. And it was so weird because no one would say anything. And I found that experience all throughout school. There will be maybe one or two teachers who said, yeah, there's like two teachers throughout the whole time when I was wearing a Lolita school. And I didn't wear a huge amount the last couple of years, but this year I'm going to wear full Lolita to school. But only like one or two teachers who even said anything. They were just like, oh, what's this? Is there a special occasion? I'm like, no, just chillaxing. And they're just like, oh, okay then. It's like they were the only people. Like everyone else was just too afraid to ask anything. I thought that was kind of hilarious. And it's kind of weird though that people just kind of accept it as fact when you walk in. I'm like, it's weird. I know this. You can say something. See, other experiences I have had while taking walks in Lily, because I'm not a really person who does a bunch of exercise or things, although I should. I know exercise is important, but I do make it kind of something I've been really trying to find important is just taking strolls while wearing Lolita, because I live next to a park with nice winding lanes, and I figure, some pretty trees and things like that. I'm like, well, why not wear a Lolita? Keep up the Rococo kind of tradition, since a lot of Lolita take from the Rococo style. It's like, you know what, keep up the Rococo spirit, take some nice strolls in your fancy clothing. And I've been doing that a lot. And, it's fine. Just a lot of times when I'm walking around, people would kind of give me some glances. There was one time where I set my alarm on my phone to remind me, you need to go back at this time. And my phone was buzzing, so I went, picked up my phone from my pocket, and I turned around, and there's this lady who just bobs away from me while she's walking. She's like in the face of complete utter terror was on her like face. I was just like, what? What are you so scared of? And I realized, oh, me. I was just like, why? Why are you scared, lady? Why are you running? Like, and I have had one really weird experience though. So I was just taking a little stroll past this one like lane that we had. I was going back to the park area because I'm just walking around, minding my own business. And I see this one dude who's walking my direction. He's just like, "Oh, nice outfit." I'm like, thanks." And I just keep walking because I didn't realize that. I'm not sure if I smiled. I don't know, but I wasn't paying very good attention. I wasn't expecting greetings, but I was just like, yeah, thanks, and kept walking. And I was just walking around the path. And I was in full gothic Lolita that time. And I was just wearing, and that actually was an outfit I made myself. I'm going to show you that later. But I was wearing full gothic Lolita. And I was just walking my own direction. Just taking a nice weaving turns around. And then I see this dude cutting across the field, heading back in my direction. See, before, he was walking in that direction, I was walking this direction. So I was like, I'm never going to see this guy again. And I see him again, I'm like, oh, fuck, it's this guy. So at first I was just like, okay, some dude just trying to be nice. Now I'm like, oh, no, he's a weirdo, isn't he? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I don't trust anyone in the world. So basically, anytime I see anyone again, I'm just like, all of a sudden, he has to be a creep. That's my pretty, I know, it's a bad assumption to make about people. There's probably some genuine people out there. But, in my mind, revert to the protection. And I just see him, and then I'm just like kind of walking around and taking a turn away from where I was originally going just to avoid this dude. And I hear him call out to me when he comes near me, "Hey, are you alright?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, 'cause you just seem kind of down and out." And I'm just like, "Oh, uh-huh." And I just kept walking. I was just like, how do I reply to that? What does that mean? And I'm like, and like in hindsight, I'm thinking, well, rather he was a creep, or maybe he was like one of those people who's like been trained like way too much to be super conscious of other people's well-being and mental health and whatnot. And maybe he was thinking, oh, a person in weird clothing and it's all black. It's gothic. Maybe there's some weird suicidal person. They're wandering around. It's like, I'm taking a stroll like anyone else would do. If I was wearing workout gear, you wouldn't give me a second glance. But all of a sudden, I'm wearing different clothing, so it's like, oh, clearly this person's insane. And it was kind of an interesting experience doing that. But you know, it kind of ruined my walk, but I just kind of went back to my house and was just like, I'm going to ignore that happened. And I haven't had that many weird experiences since, but I don't know. Maybe something else will happen this week, since I try to go on a walk as much as I can. Usually at least every other day, but I'm trying to go more towards every day. And not like long walks, because again, not a huge fan of exercise, but like maybe 10 minutes walks. And, you know, there's always going to be some weird things that happen, but it's strange how there's definitely some weird experiences, but not really that many. And I have had a lot of times where there will be people where I'm like out getting dinner with my family or something like that, and I have had a couple people come up to me and just be like, oh my gosh, what are you wearing? And, yeah, it's like, but not like in a rude way. A lot of people are just more genuinely curious. Where they're just like, they've never seen this before, so they're just wondering what the heck it is. So that's kind of nice. I can kind of give them a little bit of a spiel, but I'm never really prepared. I know I should be more prepared for people talking to me, but I'm not quite. And so I'm always just kind of like, say something, and I'm always like a million and one things that I have practiced, and I forget all of them. But yeah, and I have had it happen once where there's a person who walked up to me like, is that Lolita? I'm like, oh my gosh, this person knows what Lolita is. And I was just like, yeah, it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of friends who are into Lolita. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this person knows people who are also Lolitas, because I've never really met another Lolita in my life. I've maybe passed a couple of them when I went to cons, but I've never actually met really directly anyone else who was a Lolita. And those like, oh my gosh, these people know people who are Lolitas, and they're in my area? Oh my god! But sadly, no real community set up. But I'm like, beyond hope, I'm just like, there's someone else out there. And that was kind of cool. So I just kind of gave him a little chat. I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love Lolita. And it has also happened before where I'm walking around and out at the store, and these like, kind of couple, maybe in their 50s, walked up and were like, excuse me, what kind of clothing is that, or where did you get that? I'm like, oh, this is just a Japanese child. And they're like, oh yeah, our my granddaughter's into that. I'm like, oh, cool. And they're like, so where did you get that outfit? I'm like, and to be honest, it was like an outfit I put out with not even actual Lolita brands, and it's like, I got this online, and this at a store, and this at a Goodwill, and just like, I wish I had a better outfit on so I could reply better. And it's like a lot of just trying to figure that out. It's really interesting to see that, because it's like, there's still a good amount of people out there where there's a chance you'll come across someone who knows what it is, but a lot of times people don't know. Actually, one person, a little thing you know about me, I am atheist, but my stepfather is a pastor, and my mom is a Quaker, so we've got a lot of religion in our family. And so I was at this one church gathering, which I kind of got dragged to, but I was like, you know what, it's fine, I'm going to be cool with this. And one person at our church, this old dude, maybe in his 70s, and he's adorable. He's an adorable old man. We can all say this, because I'll admit it, old people can be pretty adorable. But he walks up and he's like, oh, what is that clothing? I like your outfit. I'm like, oh, thank you. And he says, oh, that's a really, like, cool costume. It's like, no, I shouldn't say costume. It's just your clothing. I'm like, this dude's getting it. He's getting it instantly. He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, it's super nice. It's like little Bo Peep almost. And I'm like, yeah, that's a common. Like, I was like, oh, he said the stereotypical thing. I'm like, you know what? It's fine, because he's like super cool. And it's like, yeah, it's like takes from that same style. You know, that's kind of the Victorian Rococo era that little Bo Peep comes from. So it definitely does look like it. And he was just like, oh, well, I just think that's super cool. And I'm just like, you know what? Old people are the best. Like, some of them give you really weird judgmental things, but a lot of them just find it cool because they're like, it's some fashion that they knew. Like, once I was going to, we have a reserve, a bird reserve, kind of just forest area, and I was going to one of the things, and there was some event stuff or whatever, and I was walking by, and there was this old lady who saw my outfit. She's like, "Oh my gosh, are you wearing crinolines?" And for people who know what crinolines are, they're petticoats, but from more of an old-fashioned term for them. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, are those crinolines?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm wearing crinolines." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, can I see them?" I was like, "Sure." So I just kind of lifted up my skirt and showed her my crinoline. She's like, "Oh, that's amazing. I used to wear those when I was your age," and blah blah. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I love them too." It's like all these different things. We had this kind of instant connection where I was like, "Oh yeah, I made mine, and I have one of my grandmother's pairs," and blah blah blah. And she's like, "Oh, I just think it's delightful." I'm like, "Yeah, I wish more people wore them." And it's really cool to do have that slight connection with people, because nowadays so much of the fashion is like all casual jeans and a sweatshirt. There's not really that many, kind of high fashion, like pretty poofy kind of fashion nowadays. So even though we're totally different in style, we can still make that connection with our elders, because they had some similar things in there. They cared a lot more about their appearance. They wore puff sleeves and Mary Janes and things like that, which we also do, but just coincidentally. Anyways, I really find that you can have some really interesting experience while wearing Lolita. And if you're willing to put up with the slight chance of there's something bad happening, it's like good, because almost all the experiences you're gonna have are gonna be indifferent or positive. Like a couple times you'll have a couple things which leave a sour taste in your mouth or whatever, but all the rest of them are just gonna be pretty good. And if you keep a good positive point of view, being like, people who will stare at me are just funny because they're doing the stereotypical thing. You can just keep that in your head, because it is kind of funny to see people's reactions. So as long as you don't take offense to them and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is so hard to wear this in public because people are staring," I'm like, no, just own it. Own it. Just being like, "Yeah, I'm wearing something different. I know. Aren't I weird? Uh-huh. Yep, total weirdo over here." If you keep on thinking that, it's really fun and a positive experience. And, I really would recommend, just if you're a fan of Lolita, to just and wear it yourself, to go out in public more often, because you might even find someone else who's passionate about it as well, because